The last time I posted a video outlining my carry gear, I was still carrying the Glock 48 most of the time. So I figured it's probably high time that I post an update. So in this video, I'm going to share about my two primary carry guns, and then towards the end, I'll get into some of my other daily carry items. So first, I actually have two primary carry guns that I swap back and forth depending on the occasion. I do not swap them just for funsies though. My trusty iron-sighted Glock 42 right here is for outfits that require more effort to conceal in, such as workout clothes or just tighter fitting shirts in general. And then my P365 over here is for just about everything else. So let's get into how I have customized these guns for my needs and how I have set up each of these Enigmas. We're going to start with the P365. So for my P365, I have a Boresight Solutions Razorback grip module, a safety, and a Hollow Sun 507K. The 407K still rocks, it's just still sitting on my Glock 48. The Boresight Solutions frame lets me get a much better grip overall because of this little bump right here. I have a full video that you can watch and it'll explain why I use this frame, why it's worth the money for me, but also I'll sum that up for you here. So like I said, the part that seems to make the biggest difference for me is this bump right here. It fills in this kind of hollow portion of my hand that happens when you form this shape. And then as a result, it functions a lot more like a larger grip would without, this being the key part, without adding bulk that can make concealment more of a challenge. A big problem that I've encountered with other aftermarket frames for the P365 is that they aren't compatible with any of the holsters that I prefer to use, and I definitely cannot use them with my Enigma Express because the Enigma Express only accepts the skeleton holster that it comes with. Whereas this Boresight grip module is a P365 grip module that's been customized, but it hasn't had any of the critical holster fit features altered, such as the shape of the trigger guard here, the thickness of the trigger guard, or any of this portion of the frame here. If you're interested in seeing if this grip shape could improve your shooting comfort and or performance, then I would suggest doing what I did to determine that for myself. And that is I took basically a little piece of cardboard and wadded it up and tried to kind of form this type of shape. And then I took like a medical tape and taped it onto the back and then wrapped that in hockey tape. And it really only lasted me 2 full range trips, but that was plenty to know that it made a noticeable difference for me, and that helped with making the decision to invest in a custom grip module for my daily carry gun. I do have a manual safety on here that I use like I would a striker control device on a Glock or a hammer on a DASA gun, really only when I'm holstering and sometimes when I'm doing just general administrative handling. I've shot a little over 5,000 rounds for this P365 without issues, and I've been pretty happy with my performance with it. To carry this P365, I pretty much exclusively use my customized Enigma Express. But before we get more into that, I think that it is worth mentioning here that I am a PHLster employee, but of course my opinions are my own. And furthermore, I wouldn't be using a product all day, nearly every day for the last 3+ years if it didn't suit my needs better than anything else that I've been able to find. I started using the Enigma back in 2020 when they launched, and back then the only thing that was available was the standard Enigma, so I do have a pretty decent amount of experience carrying in both the standard and the Enigma Express, and I like them both equally for different reasons, but I choose to carry in the Enigma Express solely because this dimension from here to here is shorter on the Enigma Express, and that is a really helpful feature for my body type because my hips are so narrow. But I recommend both of them for different people and their different body types and needs in a holster. To customize this Express, I went ahead and swapped out the magnetic fidlock buckle for a reduced size buckle, which helped me reduce the overall footprint of the Enigma even further, which was a great help for keeping any of the kind of hard holster parts from touching my hip bones. For most people, this isn't really an issue. I'm just an outlier in terms of size, so I had to put a little bit more effort into customizing things to fit my frame, even including clothing. The next thing that I added was an extra small sport belt. I was initially using the small size, but the extra small definitely suits me a lot better and was actually a pretty noticeable comfort swap. Turns out there's a reason the fit guide says to go with the smaller of the two sizes if you find yourself right on the edge between those two sizes. The sport belt really helped me address a couple of discomfort issues that I've really unfortunately encountered with every type of inside the waistband carry method. Whether I was carrying with a normal belt or an Enigma, I would experience lower back pain. And I'm convinced that that lower back pain comes from a lack of mobility that I was experiencing when I would wear belts that don't stretch. So the sport belt not only gives me a little bit of stretch to address those lower back pain issues, but it also adds a little bit of surface area to distribute the weight of the gun. Lastly, I did swap out the leg leash material. This wasn't at all necessary, but I wanted to give it a try, and I'd say that it's probably my preference over the stock leg leash material, but you'll see on my Glock 42, I have the stock material, and both of them are good options. This is probably more my preference though. PHLster does have a full written walkthrough for how to DIY this for yourself. It's really easy and cheap to do at home, but you can also get a DIY kit straight from Henry Holsters for cheap. The very last thing that I'll mention about this is that I almost always wear a fabric layer of some kind between my skin and my Enigma / gun. And sometimes that means that I'm wearing a tank top, or other times that means that I'm wearing like a high-waisted underwear, which I have a whole video about, which I'll link up here. But either way, my skin is generally on the more sensitive side of things, so I like to keep some kind of barrier between my carry gear and my skin. Moving on to my Glock 42. This was actually my very first ever gun that I carried. And let me tell you, this little thing absolutely rocks. It's easier for me to conceal than my P365, even though they're similarly sized, because it's thinner, which is a really crucial dimension for concealment for people who have like a lower body fat percentage. It's also easier because it does not have an optic on it. And admittedly, I am not as fast with this gun because of that, but the slight degradation in speed for me is worth the increase in concealment for the specific context that I use it for. For customizing this little guy, I've added a striker control device, which isn't currently being sold for the Glock 42, but if you do want to see that made at some point, you can contact Langdon Tactical and send them an email and tell them that you want a striker control device for the Glock 42. And if they ask you, why are you emailing me about this? You can say, because Tessa told me to. And they'll be so glad. Moving right along, I've had several of you actually reach out to me and ask where I got my striker control device. I did purchase it before Tau Development Group stopped making them. So unfortunately right now, the only way that you can get your hands on a striker control device for the Glock 42 is to find someone somewhere on planet Earth that is selling theirs. And to that I will say, best of luck. I do not plan on getting rid of mine. Mine's not going anywhere. And lastly, on both of my carry guns, I like to have a hockey tape over the grip. It just helps kind of lock my grip in on the gun, while also kind of smoothing out the texture so it doesn't pull on my shirts or my skin if I'm not wearing a berry of some type that day. I also carry my Glock 42 in an Enigma Express with the same customizations, with a reduced size buckle, a sport belt, and then for this one I'm just using the stock leg leash. Okay, now that we have gone through the guns that I carry on the regular, let's quickly go over my other daily carry items. These really have not changed in years. Everything I carry in my purse for trauma medical and such is the same, although it's been swapped out over the years for new ones. However, the PHLster Pew kit is no longer being made, unfortunately, so it's probably time I try something else so that I can actually recommend another good compact trauma medical kit for your purse or your pocket. And if you guys have any recommendations, please let me know down in the comments. I would be totally glad to check them out. In addition to that, I do have a cat tourniquet. I prefer this tourniquet, honestly. It's super easy to use for one-handed application, and it's fairly intuitive. The size isn't really an issue for me because I carry it in my purse. And I'll be honest, my flashlight gets left home or in my vehicle from time to time. If I run out of space in my small purse and it's the middle of the day, that's the first tool that I will leave behind. But if we're planning to be out in the evening or for most of the day, then I'll have either one of my mod lights or one of my cloud lights in my bag. I do have full reviews of this light and the other lights I just mentioned. I'll link that up here or I'll link that down in the description. And lastly, but certainly not leastly, would be my POM OC spray. This is always with me unless I totally goofed and accidentally left it at home. I never intentionally leave this behind, and besides my flashlight, it's probably my most used and most useful tool that I carry. No, I've never had to use this on a human before, and Lord willing, I will never have to, but boy has this come in handy when I've run into stray dogs. Fortunately, I've never had to directly spray a dog, but I have left a trail of OC puffs to keep unknown and unaccompanied dogs from following me. I learned that lesson after being chased home by 2 dogs when we still lived in El Paso, and ever since then, my OC and I have been inseparable. If you don't carry OC, even for the sole purpose of deterring stray animals, you might want to seriously start considering it. And that is pretty much everything. Occasionally I have chapstick, maybe lipstick. No, I still don't carry a knife of any kind. Although a utility style knife makes a whole lot of sense to carry, I would have to increase the size of my bag to bring that along, and I simply haven't encountered enough situations where I've missed a knife while I'm out and about to go through the process of changing out my purse. So that is everything I carried in 2023 and exactly what I plan to carry in 2024. Maybe I'll see you again in 2025 with some changes or not. I'm interested though, what are you carrying right now? And is there anything that you're considering maybe changing or adding at the moment?